Hi everyone, Soul Super 17 here, learning first like usual. I do not own this pictures and this, made the thumbnail. So, yeah. Anyways, so, I'm actually basically, didn't really get as much as I wanted to get done in the last video. I mean, I wanted to continue after where I left off, but it was an hour long. So, in a sense, I just had to basically make part 2 right away. And I kind of was busy today. I mean, I was kind of also watching some anime that I was maybe thinking of some ideas for. Um, like another isekai, what if I said previously, basically, you know, probably a good one. I even talked about it with a few friends. They kind of agreed. It'll be kind of like me, but there are basically some also what if something I go back to. Someone asked about Ruby. Yes, that's gonna go back. It's just I'm taking my time with it because I honestly need to watch it again, where I basically left off and where I need to start, from. So, and I'm trying to catch up on some anime too. So, I mean, and also whatever else I need to do besides work throughout the day before I start school. So I'm also playing video games, trying to catch up on that. It's just a lot of things I'm trying to catch up on. uh, so yeah. And I'm basically back downstairs taking care of the fire. But anyways, let's just get this started. This is basically what Deku was Izuku and the Soul Reaper. I mean, Soul Eater, not Soul Reaper. Soul Eater Part 2. As where we left off is Izuku introduced himself as Zero Death. Basically, I mean, just by that, people are thinking he is Death, like Death's son. So, we will get into it. But I do have to put another log on the fire, so give me a minute. Alright, so, yeah. Okay, so we're basically starting off, though, right in the class after he said that. Which everyone's kind of shocked, including, well, Stein isn't really that shocked since he knows about the attendance record. So he's like, yes, Dev's adopted son. I see. And they say, Zuko just chuckles, like, yeah, pretty much. So where do I sit, teach? He just says, well, sit over there. There's a couple of seats open. He goes, thanks. So him and Tamaki basically walk over and sit down. And everyone's kind of looking at him. Basically, he's thinking to himself, geez, what's so wrong with me being Def's son? Well, adopted at least. Seems like maybe the talk of the school for a bit. Great. Basically, this goes on for about maybe only 2 days until, kids, basically announcements coming. I want to say at least 2 days because, I mean, never really said like the next day or so in the anime, and from what I read in the manga, it just went straight to Def's, straight to kids' home, so. So let's just say around 2 days. People trying to get to know Izuku. Black Star's been trying to fight Izuku to prove himself to be that him stronger than him, and to see how tough he is. And basically, Izuku's like, no, just no. So in a sense, yeah. And basically, Stein though has been talking to Izuku and Tamaki about some things like soul resonance, which they're like, huh? Oh, right, that's one of the books we read, right? Basically, Tamaki nods, and basically Stein goes, huh, seems like you've been able to use it, not basically knowing, subconsciously, which basically Zuko was like, well, I mean, Dad said I had a lot of potential, so maybe that's why? Or I'm just naturally attuned to it or something, who knows? Which basically, Stein does nod. Then he goes like, also, seems like you also use something like similar to me, what I do. When basically I'm find somebody. He goes, huh? He goes, that electricity that goes onto your, feet. You know what I call it? Which Izuku nods no. He goes, what do you call it? Basically, he says, I call it Purge Soul. Basically, it sends soul waves into my opponent's body, basically attacking it eternally and causing damage. Which Izuku was like, sweet, you think you can teach me? He goes, I am your teacher, so sure, but after class. He goes, alright, that's fine. But what about the black lightning? He goes, that could be a side effect of you being a reaper. But we'll have to do some tests. And he goes like, oh heck no, I'm not getting diced up and experimented on. Which he goes, not those type of tests. I mean, that would help me figure out you more better, but Lord Death told me not to even try it. Which basically Zuko just sighs in relief. And then basically Tamaki's going like, so do I need to be a part of it? Which, Stein nods. You're like, yeah, you do. But we'll do that after class. It's the lunch period. Go have your fun. Which Izuku does not, and basically him and Tamaki leave, and well, everything would kind of go the same, including when basically Kid arrives. Now, when Kid arrives, basically Black Star is, well, everything will go the same. It's just basically besides Maka and Tsubaki and Stein watching, Izuku and basically Tamaki watching, which he goes, so Kid knows to fight at close range. I mean, that's a good thing that he has. I mean, if he didn't know, he would be in kind of a big trouble. Which Tamaki's looking at him, like, you can just tell by that right away, just by looking at their fight. He goes, yeah, Kid trained in both, basically hand-to-hand combat and long-range fighting, since he has two of his, weapons, basically turned to guns. He has a strong physical body, basically the movement, too, that helps him. So, in a basically close quarters fight, he doesn't have to worry about basically his opponent being a little bit faster than him. Even if basically he has the disadvantage, he will win in the end because of his guns. And basically his tactical thinking if he basically has a good opportunity to actually think. Which Stein's looking at Izuku with a raised eyebrow. He goes, you can tell just by that, just by seeing the fighting. He goes, it's a force of habit. I have a tendency to analyze some things more than others and find out their weaknesses. Like I already know one weakness that Kid does have. He goes, what's that? Basically, Stein says we're curious. Even Maka says, yeah, what's his weakness? He goes, symmetry. He goes, huh? He believes everything needs to be in symmetry. Perfect alignment, basically being the same. To him, without that, nothing's perfect. And he gets some sort of, I guess, problem. That's his only, basically, that's his only problem and weakness. Besides, if someone's stronger than him, his physical capabilities won't matter, neither will his weapons. He may be physically and mentally strong at times, but he's still just a kid like us, so. Which Stein just nods, and Tamaki's like thinking to herself, wow, he's actually really smart. I mean, what he told me about what he did as a hobby is interesting, but maybe I should buy him a book and he can start going through some of the histories of Kishins and try to figure out, well, each one's different, yeah, but some similarities where we can find out a better weakness to them. And basically, she basically thinking that, well, basically, then she hears, basically, Zuku says, Kid lost anyways in the end. Which that kind of shocks Tsubaki, Maka, and Stein's actually, curious. He goes, as soon as basically Kid understands what happened, he'll lose. If your opponent doesn't stay down, basically, they can still fight. But if he stays down for a period of time, he'll lose the fight. Which Stein actually is going like, good observation. Let's see if your basically theory's right. So, yeah, same thing happens with basically Kid. Which he goes, oh then, Zero, seems like your observations were correct. I'm impressed that you actually figured that all out by just a glance. He goes, he's my brother. Unfortunately. And besides, I knocked him out with one kick for a few minutes. That was added with basically my fire, so. Which basically Stein just nods, basically. But Maka, kind of shot along. Basically, Tsubaki already ran over to Black Star to check to see if he's alright and such. So, yeah. So, basically, Izuku walking over basically to, basically kids, partners. He goes, so you're Elizabeth, and your name's kind of hard to say for me, so I'm just gonna call you Patty. Is that alright? And Patty goes like, hey kid, you okay? Which basically, Liz just says, I'm sorry for him about the other time. He goes, it's fine. Seriously, if he doesn't get over this weakness of his, it could be a real problem for him. She just sighs and goes like, I know. But anyways, call me Liz, by the way. He goes, alright then, Liz. So, what do you think's going on? And then basically all of a sudden it was like, hey there everyone, no. Wow, seems like a little bit of a fight happened here. Which basically Zuko was like, Dad, did you just come here out of nowhere or because of the fight? He was like, oh no, I came here because of basically kids' first day at school. He was like, where's my basically, you coming here and stuff. He was like, because it wasn't your first day at school though. He was like, anyways. Which basically, that kind of like, basically Death is just laughing because Izuku is basically kind of blushing out of embarrassment. Then he just pats Izuku's head, which Izuku just starts chuckling. He goes, so, is there anything basically else you're gonna have to do? Today? He goes, I do have a quiche and I do have a kind of a few hunts you need to go on. He goes, seriously? He goes, yeah. Basically, Death basically gives Izuku papers. He goes, three low-ranking basically hunts. One basically in America and New York City. Other one in France. And the last one, funny enough, Japan. He goes, Now then, each one of them basically, you have to find them in certain ways. This is a test, an extra lesson for you to always find out where basically the hunting grounds are and how you basically can proceed them. You can leave basically after today. He goes, you sure? He goes, It'll be basically good for you to gather things already. He goes, well, thanks. I'll do that. He goes, also, a few things are going to happen after this. He goes, like what? He goes, well, how should I say? There are going to be some extra lessons for people. So, in a sense, people go around just like you're doing. That's why basically I'm having you leave tomorrow. He goes, am I meeting up with anybody? He goes, oh yes, you are. Maka, Soul? Which basically Maka and Soul, just looking at basically Death. They're like, yes sir? Well, basically goes like, yeah, Soul says. Maka said, yes sir. He goes, after your basically mission is done in Italy as your last one, I want you to meet up with basically Zero and come back together. And to get to know each other and probably get a good friendship going. Which he's like, Dad, he was like, I know you guys are in the same class and stuff, but if something arises that you both will need help in, at least basically both you and your partners can help out each other. He goes, fine on that one. Got me there. Which basically Mako's like, I can see that actually helped me, which Soul goes like, cool. I don't mind basically getting to know you after you saved our butts, basically the other day from Stein. Which basically Zuko just chuckling. He's like, still, sorry for ruining by your extra lessons. Which he was like, nah, you coming in basically saving us actually helped us out a lot. Basically, just seeing you fight, even though basically Stein was going easy on you, was amazing. It was like, yeah. Basically, Mako goes like, you're also a scythe user, right? He goes like, you too? He goes, mm-hmm. But how did your weapon transform? He was like, it's just like, I guess, Sabaki over there, right? She goes, yeah, but I mean, you're transformed with flames. He goes, just my weapon's unique ability. Anyways, though, I'm just a recently started scythe wielder, so I really don't know much about it. Which he goes, huh? Including Soul's actually kind of confused. Basically, just Death saves Suzuku's like, yes, he doesn't know much, but he just started recently, so it's understandable. Which, I mean, Marcus, but how? He's adopted, so he just recently came into this business that we do at the academy. And besides, he is quite talented already, wielding both his weapons transformations. But he does not know Witch Hunt or he does not know the Scythe's greatest technique, the Witch Hunt. He goes, huh, yeah, I don't know what that is. He's like, well then, basically, I hope Maka can teach you. He goes, seriously? She goes, yeah, I don't mind. I mean, are you a quick learner? He was like, I guess so. I mean, Stein's been teaching me how to do something he calls a purge soul, which basically I call basically Death's interest. He was like, really? He was like, yeah, but I think technically we need to get back to class, right? Where Stein goes like, yeah, you guys do. I have to talk to basically, Lord Death here after he gets back. Which basically Maka, Soul, Izuku, and Tamaki basically leave. Give me a minute. Alright, sorry about that. But anyway, so... Hold up. Wait a minute. Just trying to hear something. Okay, should be good. Okay, like I was saying, basically, them just leaving. So Death leaves and such, and we will basically, if you guys don't know what happened in the anime, basically Stein was basically about to do a dissection of basically experimentation and research on a rare bird species that was basically going to go extinct. So he wanted to basically dissect it, and basically because of kids and Soul and basically Blastar's fight, he had to stop. So yeah, he does exactly what he was gonna do. But one day when basically Lord Death basically came back, or Shimigami, I just like to say Death. It's much more easier. Comes back basically from dropping off Kid. Stein's there in his office along with Spirit. He goes, yes, what is this, Stein? He goes, listen, I may say this, and it may sound weird, but that kid that you had basically adopted, Zero, he picks up things quickly. He analyzes to a T. And besides, he basically doesn't even understand the basic thing of a soul wavelength, but just anything to do with the soul. And yet, he was able to do it so easily. After he basically does it the first time, and he gets a better understanding of it with a few more research, he was able to basically nearly perfectly copy my purge soul, or at least basically learn it from me perfectly. Which basically Death goes like, that is true. I mean, he is a kid basically that has a lot of potential on him. I would say he could become a prodigy if he wasn't, circumstances. Basically, even Spirit nods, which he goes, well, Spirit, this is the first time I haven't seen you acted, so seriously like this in a long time. He goes, listen, that kid, he's going to be in a lot of danger if basically any Kishin or witches find out about him. So we gotta basically be careful. He goes, I can see what you mean, but as evolution of my purge soul technique, he says basically if those black electricity that he can actually form, actually without being subconsciously, and actually do it consciously, he'll come up with a name with it, keep the soul part but change the first name. Which basically Death was like, I see. well, keep teaching them, and actually, help basically train Zero and basically Tamaki. There are some bright students right there, along with basically Black Star, Tsubaki, well, Kid, and his two partners, Maka, and Soul, which basically he just nods. When basically Stein leaves, basically Spirit's like, so you're not going to tell him about he's being reborn from another world? He goes, no. He probably already come up with theories about that, Spirit. But here's the thing. Izuku's potential is very bright. His soul, though, is weak. Which goes, huh? It's like Maka's. He has the courage to basically fight through death, but his soul could be weak. It seems that when I brought it, it was formed into a new body. His soul shrunk. I have a theory on this, but at the same time, I'm not too sure. I never encountered something like this. But if it is true, his soul could be already big enough to basically be outside of his body, like Stein's. Basically, the theory goes like, I wonder what his soul's like. Which we have basically, Dev just thinking, it was like, to be frank, it's small enough so we can't even see it. Well, how should I say? Small to see any details. The size of a normal soul like Maka, just see the outline of his hair and at least a face on it. That's all. Which, basically, Sphere just nods. So, after that, we do head to, basically, the next day when Izuku and Tsubaki arrive in New York. In which, basically, he goes like, alright, we're facing down someone called the Alleyway... Seriously? The Alleyway Marionette? What the heck? Which basically Tamaki's like, well, that sounds like a strange name. He goes like, of course it does. Why would you call yourself the Alleyway Marionette? She goes, maybe you should ask around in the location. He goes like, yeah, from the report here, it says basically he's in such and such area, basically heads down these alleyways near basically a grocery store plus a library nearby. In which basically she just nods. So they go in that area, and they basically ask around. People have been basically terrified to go out at night because of this thing. Plus, well, nobody knows what it looks like, so they really are scared. They basically says it only comes out at night because they never found basically a dead body during the day. So Izuku was like, well, it seems like all Kyushins like to do their nightly duties. Which basically Tamaki nods. So, after that, we do have Izuku and Tamaki wait for nighttime. They went around sightseeing, at least for a bit, and then and then basically, go for a fight with basically the marionette, the alleyway marionette. So when they found it, basically they see it, kind of like how we meet Maka for the first time, where basically the murderer Jack the Ripper, basically after it killed somebody and ate a soul, he goes, murder marionette. Or you're basically killing innocent people and devouring their souls. I'm here to basically kill you. As basically they see it, turn, and basically they hear a voice without the mouth moving. It's like, so you came to kill me, and yet, why? He goes, it doesn't matter, Tamaki. Which Tamaki basically turns into a scythe, which the marionette's like, you, how dare you try to kill me? I will not die so easily. Basically, leaps forward as Zuko. As Zuko basically then, basically uses his ability with fire, basically shoot himself forward, quick enough to basically catch the marionette off guard and slice right through it. In a sense, he basically kills it, and Tamaki eats her fourth soul of Kishin. Sorry, just tired. So after that, basically, yeah, you did a great job. Now we just have to go basically to Paris, and then to Italy, I guess. Basically, no, it's Japan, then to Italy. In which she goes, So yeah, they go to Paris. They basically found their Kishin, which was just someone called. I'm coming up with the names right at the top of my head, everyone. I'm trying to think of like a friend, like trying to think of something to do with history, but there's something called basically the baker, which literally was in a freaking store, and this, basically Izuku Tamaki used the claws and kind of wrapped things up real quick and killed him. Then in Japan, they call basically the Ronin, which was kind of strange for, Izuku, because they only said Ronin. Basically, the location was just kind of an abandoned dojo that, in the surrounding areas, people that walk by suddenly die, and yeah. So Izuku basically fought the Ronin. The Ronin was pretty difficult, but he basically, actually tested out the Purge Soul and literally hit it, which caused a lot of damage to the actual, basically the Kishin, because he matched its soul wavelength and, you know, caused an attack and, yeah, damage enough to basically to uppercut basically the actual Kishin in the air with basically without the sharp end of the basically scythe, immediately jump up and literally slash down on it, killing it. Tamaki ate her basically 6-0? Yeah, 6. So after that, basically, they're basically on their way to Italy. So when they do arrive at Italy, they're basically arriving in basically a vehicle, basically you could say a van, or basically a car. Which basically Tamaki's like, it's really nice that your dad gave us a car. He's like, yeah, I'm actually kind of amazed. I mean, basically has a flashback where basically Death's like, hey kiddo, have you basically going to the garage? He's like, huh? I mean, basically, he's on the phone. He's like, what do you mean? He's like, you do have a car and a motorcycle. He's like, I have what now? He goes, He's like, he basically runs down into the garage area of the apartment and he sees just the two vehicles. He's like, why you didn't tell me this? He was like, I thought you would have looked. He's like, uh, I'm gonna tell Tamaki. So he basically hands up and basically tells her. She's shocked. She sees it. She's surprised. So yeah, basically Zuko's like, it was a real surprise when we saw these. But she just nods. So basically while they're driving, basically Zuko gets this weird feeling. Because they arrived right when Chrono and Ragnarok were fighting Maka, and then basically, Stein basically comes in along with Spirit. And then this is when basically Medusa, which is the witch, basically reveals herself. So, yeah, basically Zuko stops the car and just drives off in that direction, which basically Tamaki's like, what's wrong? He was like, I don't know what the heck that feeling is, but this is bad. He basically closes his eyes while driving, which Tamaki's like, Izuku, don't do that, basically. And, he opens his eyes quickly and, does a turn. And, yeah, he's just driving off, which he was like, okay, there's 4 souls. And then there's other 2 ones together plus a third floating up in the air, seems like. She was like, you can tell by that? He was like, we're pretty close actually. As when basically everyone hears the sound of a car coming, as Zuko basically, turns the car drifting and then stopping as basically he jumps out of it and he sees basically a snake already holding, Chrono, and he's about to go into a fight, but Medusa's leaving too, in which basically Stein tells him don't go. We basically have to help out Soul, which he looks back, he's like, well, this is gonna be a pain. Basically, he basically runs his hand through his hair, and yeah. So based on the way there, he was like, okay, Maka, tell me what happened to Soul. So she kind of explains the situation, tells it, it's his fault, and blah, blah, blah. Which basically Izuku was like, to be honest, I would have done exactly the same thing you've done. But you panicked. To be fair, anyone would have done that in that situation. So you can't blame yourself for it. But she goes, but I'm weak. Soul had to protect me. He was like, listen, Maka, Soul cares about you. I don't know in what way he cares for you besides you being his Meister. He may be actually his best friend. Who knows? Besides, look at it from his perspective. He can be replaced, with someone else, but you can't. I mean, I really don't know how he feels. Because we never talked much, but still. I can already tell by him taking the hit, he cares about you a lot, Maka. Just ask him basically why he do it. And don't basically tell him just don't go the whole time because you're my Meister, blah 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 BS. Just ask him basically just straight up. Alright? And if he doesn't want to say it, then that's his choice. Don't take no offense to it. Guys don't like to talk about their feelings. Which Tamaki would not and be like, yeah. I mean, you have to be patient with them. And besides, basically she's looking at Soul. He was like, he's strong. In will. But not in body. Which basically, yeah. Maka basically kind of smiles at that as she says thanks. So basically, they drive off and get into the flight and go to Deaf Academy. Well, basically, DMWA. So yeah, basically Academy, and everything happens with basically Soul and Maka. Basically, Soul gets about the surgery. Maka asks how's he doing. After the surgery's done, they basically find about him having black blood in him, and it's just the scene where basically everyone finds out what happened to Soul, and then Blackstar gets in, where then Zuko arrives, like, man, you're noisy, Blackstar. Can you just lower down your voice, basically? I mean, volume / voice a bit. Which goes, hey, I'm a big man. I'm basically gonna be the big star. And he was like, yeah, whatever. He goes, ugh. Why are you here? He was like, see how Soul's doing. Surgery was a success, Maka. When she nods, basically though he's looking at Blackstar, he was like, listen, I know you're worried about him, but you didn't have to basically make a lot of ruckus on the way here. Where she goes like, come on. That's how I normally am. He goes like, flashy entrance. It's like, yep. He goes, huh. Well, I mean, they're pretty fun to do. He was like, I know, right? All my shows are fun. Which Izuku's thinking, yeah, probably not. So, after that, basically, the nurse, basically Medusa, comes in and, well, if I basically, in the manga, I got pretty far. So basically, for the next couple of days, Maka would go visit Soul while basically Izuku and Tamaki basically are learning about the world. Plus, Izuku is training him hand-to-hand combat. And he's basically also trying to figure out basically how to increase the Purge Soul strike a bit more and try to perfect it. So that way then he can go into it next, the next level of it and try to basically make a new technique. So basically we just go to, I say one day when Soul was basically still in the hospital, he basically just kind of, how should I say, Izuku basically. Hold up, I need to think of something. My brain had a brain fart. Okay, now I remember. So basically, while Izuku's training, while Soul's in the hospital, Tamaki coming over to him. He was like, "Hey, Zero, here, I got you this." He was, "Huh?" Because I think it would have been during school time. So he's like, notebook?" She was, "Mm-hmm." This way, basically, anytime we basically find a Kishin, we basically can learn about it, to a certain extent, and then basically write this down, including basically on witches. He basically smiles at her. He was like, "Thanks. This is basically very helpful for us." Was she basically not? So, in a sense, though, Zuko and her train together. He basically is focusing on his basically martial arts while Tamaki is also doing that. And I would say, basically, since it has been a couple of days, Soul's condition does go exactly the same, along with basically, well, basically Medusa. So, in a sense, Izuku basically has been soul and taught to him, and he has gone and faced some more Kishins, which I would say he at least every 2 days he goes out and comes back and do class. So he only has to face about maybe 3 Kishins altogether in a week. So basically, what I remember from the manga is that while this was happening, Maka does talk to her dad briefly as her dad goes over to basically Kishin with her and why basically Def had made the academy and such for other Meisters and so on and so forth. Oh. Alright, so I really don't see like Zuko just doing much but training, fighting, studying, and learning basically basically some new martial arts. So, because basically a lot of things happen with Soul. Basically, he's in basically trying to get ready to get back in fine condition, while also, Mako also wants to try to find out to get stronger. And then basically the next thing you know is basically Black Star and Tsubaki are going to fight, well, basically her brother, well, Tsubaki's brother, and get a new transformation with the sword. So I'm gonna say during this time though, after his whole entire training thing for a good number of days, I think it will last like a couple of weeks. During the week, though, we do have a scene where basically, Tamaki asks Izuku if they can go out and hang out and try to basically meet some other Meisters, basically make some friend group, which he was like, alright then, let's go. So, she goes, anyways, Izuku, what do you think's gonna happen? He's like, who knows? I mean, basically, this whole entire city is all new to us still. So, a lot of things can be different from what we're used to. Basically, she nods and such, but then all of a sudden they bump into somebody. You can say a purple hair, golden eyes, or purple eyes, I think. Basically, woman wearing a weird outfit and such, and she goes, "Oh, sorry about that." Which Suzuku goes like, "It's no problem." Huh? He basically is like, "I never seen you before." She goes, "Hmm? Oh, wait. You seem like you're from Deaf Academy." He was like, "Yeah, I am." Why? She was like, "Oh, you know Maka and Soul." He's like, "Yeah." "Who are you?" He goes like, "I'm Blair." He's like, "Oh, hi Blair." Basically, Tamaki's looking at Blair, and for some reason, she's gonna have a jealous moment. So, I mean, she does not know why. She just feels like basically Blair's gonna try something. She's like, "So what's a cutie like you basically doing out here?" He was like, Izuku just kind of ignores the comment on the cute part. He's like, "Oh, simple enough. Just basically trying to get our bearings around the city. Still new to it. She was like, really? You mind if I help? Basically show you around. He's like, I mean, that would be nice and all, but me and my partner here basically needs to have, like to basically walk around alone. Sorry. Basically walking past her, and basically Tommy Key's, looking at her with a grin. Basically, Blair's like, what the heck moment? And she is kind of now interested in Zuko because of one reason. Most people wouldn't literally, just walk past her without even a second notice. So she's like, I wonder who you are. I'll just have to find out from Maka and Soul later. I have work to do. So basically, she's going off to her job. And, well, Tamaki's like, so, do you trust her? She's like, I don't know who the heck she is or what she is, but Since Soul and Maka basically know her, I guess she's a good person. Or at least somebody not to worry about. Anyway, she nods. She was like, so, want to go to this cafe basically I know? I heard some girls were talking about it. He goes, sure. Got the cash? She just nods. So they go over and, basically eat there, they chat, they get to know each other. And she asks if Zuko's been using the book that she got him, which he goes, uh-huh. He basically shows her basically his notes, and she looks at it, and she was like, you basically wrote this all down, and even had your own, basically, opinions to it? He goes, yeah, pretty much. Just the basics. She goes, Izuku, this is a lot. He goes, really? That's the least amount I ever wrote on some topics. I have to basically see something that should get more info, since all Keishans are different. Might as well basically put them in a different class system. She goes, class system? He's like, yeah. One basically for claws, one for basically using actually one weapon each. To see basically how many weapons basically a Keishan can use. To get better understanding basically of our enemies. She goes, that's actually really good. He was like, yep. Anyways, though, we should get going. I mean, we still have to continue walking around and such. Who knows, when we find Maka or Soul? I mean, Blackstar's busy today, isn't he? She just nods. So yeah. Basically, they found Maka, who's on the way to visit Soul. And basically, Zuko's talking to Soul, and Soul's basically telling him that he basically wants to go out and do something, fight. And Zuko just chuckles and tells him to get better real quick. So yeah. I would say basically everything for Izuku is technically going right, but we do have some stuff happening in the shadows. Basically, let's just say someone's basically trying to find out about Izuku. Basically, like, zero soul. Even though basically he's here, everything else seems to be just like appeared out of nowhere since he wasn't around at all for the past 13 years. I wonder basically if I can find anything else more. Basically, it's just Medusa who's looking into it, trying to find more on basically Izuku. And when she tries to go into his personal information, it's all classified. Even she doesn't have the clearance for it. She goes like, damn. Alright then. Looks like I have to try at least piece some stuff together. So, yeah. Izuku basically is a big mystery to Medusa, and she does kind of grin at that. She was like, how fascinating to find a specimen like him, around. No one will ever miss him, but he is he is Death's son, adopted. So, let's see, basically. Hold up. Right, sorry. Anyway, so yeah. And basically after that, seeing Soul and everything, leaving Maka and him alone, basically she says, so you think they're gonna be okay? Which Izuku just shrugged, like, honest and truth. I mean, Soul may be a little shaken up while basically she wants to get stronger, so Maka's gonna have a big problem in the future. Which she nods, basically Tamaki. So I want to say after that, they basically everything would kind of go exactly the same. Just school, training, Izuku's getting stronger, and basically knowledge. And basically Maka also teaches him witch hunt, which she says she forgot, truthfully. Which Izuku says it's no problem. But the thing is, though, I want to say the most weirdest thing. Basically, there was a sign of like two witches' souls in the city, which was kind of weird because basically it was at the witch meeting. Medusa was there and such, and two witches. Basically, I did not write their names down, but I will write them down later. Well, at least one of them, since it's a recurring character. Basically, talked to Medusa, and I basically tried to kill her, basically, when she was in, basically, the city where Death is in the academy. So, yeah. In a sense, Medusa basically killed one of them, the other one turned into a frog, and they fled. Basically, after they fled, and basically Stein was there, talk about how basically a witch basically, could have, like two witches could have gotten in. Basically, one of them basically just disappeared all of a sudden while the other one fled. And how basically they would have seen Medusa's vectors. And basically just a normal person's there, needs to keep an eye on her if she was actually, in there in the city and such. But yeah, I mean, all speculations aside, basically Medusa would find basically the witch that's frog transformed, and basically to get out one basically person out of the prison that gave the head witch a lot of trouble. So yeah, that would happen, exactly the same way. The only difference though, in basically in this canon, in this story, basically when Maka and Soul basically are fighting, basically she never asked him, basically what Izuku said. So she asked, she was, okay, fine, then let me ask you this question. Why are you so willing to die for me? He basically was like, what do you mean? He was like, you're my weapon, but why you, you say you're my weapon, you're willing to die to protect me, but why? He goes, because you're my, you're my Meister. She goes, I don't care for that. I want to know why you basically are willing to die for me so much. So Soul basically doesn't say nothing. He doesn't even realize it either. All he just says is, because you're my friend, Maka, and I don't want you to get hurt. Well, I don't want you to die. I may be able to be replaced, but still, you're not. So as long as basically you live, it's, well, I know it sounds uncool for me to say this. I'll be happy knowing that I can die. And besides, at least then you can tell everyone else basically what you saw. She was so, you idiot. In which basically he just kind of chuckles like, I may be an idiot, but I'm willing to basically protect you. But she just sighs again, but then has a little bit of a smile. He was like, it's nice this. Well, seems their resonance seems to be still in sync and a little bit stronger now. But man, they basically almost became out of sync. I wonder why she basically suddenly changed everything all of a sudden. So yeah, after that, we do then have like the whole entire, basically experiment with basically the immortal wolf, basically, or witch wolf, whatever. I have to also write his name down. Basically, he's basically the wolf, basically that's named Free. So yeah, I have to write his name down and such, and making sure. Anyways, so I want to say this: the whole entire basically interaction, Izuku is there. So basically, when the guy's saying, "Hey, Maka, do you sense basically any Kichens nearby?" She goes, no, I don't sense no one near here. But why do you, wait a minute, what's the, as then before she can finish that sentence, they hear someone goes like, hey, What are you kids doing out here in the snow? Basically in London, I forgot to mention. Which Izuku was like, oh, great. Hey, guys, I think basically we have to kind of retreat. Which they're like, huh? Which basically, Free's like, smart kid. You can tell by basically me being here, basically you're outmatched a bit. He goes, yeah, pretty much. I don't know why, but I just got the feeling you are. Basically, too much for us at the moment. Hold up. Alright, so basically, as I said, Free just starts to laugh, and he goes like, well, it doesn't matter. I'm here to fight you kids. So he does, and Mako sees his soul and tells about the strange ruins and such, and then, all of a sudden he transforms. Since basically Maka and Soul are basically don't have that problem, they're able to fight. Izuku basically has tossed, basically Tamaki basically turned to daggers, and, well, I would say though, even though Soul doesn't want to basically use the power, basically he would, kind of realize he needs to use it because, they'd be overwhelmed and kind of the argument does happen, but then, basically Tsubaki would say, just, snap out of it. Meanwhile, though, while that was, while they were fighting, Black Star did pass out and, yeah, so Izuku and Tamaki basically find the guy, basically, claw to claw, basically. He's using wolf style fighting, which Izuku's basically having a hard time keeping up, but then he uses his fire to back away and then shoots himself back, kicking him in the face, immediately using, Tamaki's basically tail that shoots out, wrapping around the guy as he pulls him back and then slash at him. Basically, the guy, basically, supposed to die, which basically Izuku thinks he wins, but then all of a sudden, an ice pillar hits him, sending him flying, letting go of him. He was like, you think that can kill me? I'm immortal. Which Izuku, lands, he was like, spits out some blood. He was like, immortal? There's no such thing as true immortality. You may be able to heal quickly, but you basically can die. I just have to find a way how to basically chop you up into tiny pieces. Well, if I can at least. Basically, Izuku was thinking to himself, crap. If he basically is immortal, he must have a high regeneration. Basically, Izuku and, Tamaki basically are kind of being wary of him, so they get into a defensive fighting stance, which the, werewolf's just like, alright then, kid, here I come. Basically, they fight, Izuku. So Izuku's blocking Tamaki's basically telling him where to go and such, and he just, following her lead. And I want to say this, right when the guy overstepped his reach, basically Izuku, I already kind of could see his soul already and get the soul wavelength, and literally used Purge Soul on him, which caught him off guard and sends him flying, which basically, I would say, Medusa, that's how I say she is. I didn't really check the name. Yeah, Medusa basically thinks to herself, oh, he used the same technique as Stein. Interesting. So yeah, so basically after that, that's where everyone basically, Tsubaki tells them to basically work together and such, and, just the whole entire resonance, and basically Soul looks like he's about to devour Maka's soul, and, him getting back in a sense, and doing the whole entire witch hunt thing, which he basically, even the guy's like, and basically before, Maka came trying things, Zuko basically bursts really quickly, hitting the guy, but then she basically sees the scythe form, and she can already tell something's up. As basically when before they even, do that, basically he's like, Sabaki, not Sabaki, but Tamaki, Soul Resonance! As, they basically matching, wavelength and actually trying to do the witch hunt. And, he basically also activates his powers while they were, trying to do a soul resonance. And yeah, so he basically says, witch hunt! And does a slash. It wasn't that powerful. So it really didn't cut that deep, but it was enough to send the guy off of the bridge and send him into the water. Basically, he tried to make a pillar, jump back up, but he covers up in ice. In which basically he's like, not bad. We had to tell the Lord Death this. Basically, everyone just nods. So, yeah. By the way, Blastar did have his training to have the demon, basically sword mode, and all of that jazz happened. But, I mean, that's as far as I got to, but I'm going to add in this. So when they get back, Izuku was like, hey, Dad, we basically met some guy who was a werewolf human, basically with a weird eye. He's like, can you describe the eye to me? Which he does. He goes like, huh, so that's the witch's eye. I think I know who he is then. He goes, really? He goes, yes, but I have to research it a bit. You already know technically what his race is, so that's a good thing. But, I had to basically do some research, and Izuku, he goes, how's it coming along with the witch hunt? He's like, crappy. I was able to pull it off, but I didn't have much power in it. He goes, I see. He goes, yeah. But, how's kid? He goes, he's doing alright. That's good. He goes, oh, by the way, you have a test coming up soon. He's like, huh? He goes, have fun. He's like, son of a... And then we cut that off. So yeah, the whole entire freaking test thing would happen. He also met Sid for the first time. The interaction was kind of interesting. But yeah. So, I wouldn't say basically Izuku got first place, while Tamaki got basically fourth. And, well, basically Maka got second, with the other guy she tries to beat got third, which basically she's actually kind of shocked. And he was like, no offense, everything was kind of simple, especially the test that they gave me. It was different than everyone else. He thinks to himself on that part. Which basically Maka was actually kind of shocked, but actually kind of glad. Basically, she asked how did he get a perfect score. He was like, simple. I studied like crazy before the test came up. It took a lot of reading and basically 2 nights staying up straight. I'm so tired. I've been drinking coffee like crazy. She's like, really? He was like, yeah, I don't get paid enough for this crap. And she goes, you don't get paid at all. But she just decides to be like, that's what make it worse. So after that, we would have gone to the next scene. But, yeah, that's all as far as I got. I mean, a lot of it was basically just like going through the motions, not a lot of stuff happened. I'm sorry, but, it's just how it is when I basically went through the stories. I mean, a lot of it basically was on side characters, not Maka, and I don't see Izuku going towards anything else. So, hope you guys have a nice day, night, wherever you are, and bye.